Beneil Dariush is one of the top contenders in UFC's lightweight division, and so far he has managed to impress fans and critics with his performances inside the octagon. Many believe that Dariush is now due for a well-deserved title fight, but the UFC seems to have some other ideas. Today we're going to be looking into what options Dariush has coming into the new year and whether he will get a shot at the lightweight title. First up, Dariush eyeing a match with Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier in March. The 33-year-old mixed martial artist improved his all-time professional record to 22-4-1 by outlasting Mateusz Gamrot at UFC 280's pay-per-view bout in October last year. This fight earned him his 8th consecutive win and brought him up to number 4 in the official UFC lightweight rankings. Dariush is currently in a sport where not taking a title fight could jeopardize his standing in the division, but the UFC may have different plans. While talking to UFC.com, the American-Iranian fighter expressed his doubts if the organization will ever give him a shot at the belt. He has the option to wait and fight the winner of Makhachev versus Volkanovski, but if the Australian wins and decides to go back to featherweight, Dariush may have to wait another year for the title. He doesn't think anyone can match him in the division right now and that he deserves his chance of earning his championship belt. But he wants to continue fighting and would opt to face Oliveira or Poirier in March. According to Beneil, his schedule suits him to take a fight in March 2023. He loves fighting and considers it to be his job. He gets bored when he's not preparing for an opponent and when he's not fighting. For him, it's not only about the money or the title, the guy simply feels at home inside the cage. Dariush thinks that Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira are two of the best fighters in his division, and he would enjoy the challenge of competing with the best mixed martial artists in the world. Now let's look at how Oliveira lost his title. Khabib's late father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, wanted Islam to take over the reins after Khabib. Even after coach Abdulmanap passed away, Team Eagle executed father's plan perfectly to make sure that Islam became the UFC lightweight champion a year after Khabib retired. Even though Makhachev was doubted before every single fight, Khabib kept believing and vocally supporting him through it all, and Islam did deliver. In October 2022, Islam had to face Charles Oliveira inside the octagon for a shot at the UFC's lightweight title. Oliveira was supposed to be Makhachev's toughest opponent, yet according to the experts and analysts, he was the better striker and the better grappler, and the Brazilian had little to no chance in the fight. Islam and company proved them all wrong once again. His performance and utter domination in the fight silenced all his critics. In the fight, Islam came out to be the better striker as he managed to land several shots, and he came out to be the better grappler by scoring more takedowns. Oliveira had been notorious in the division for his submissions, and his previous opponents were afraid of going to the ground with him. But for Islam, it was just another day's work as he was able to submit Oliveira in an arm triangle in the second round of the fight. Prior to this, the Brazilian was dominating the division with his phenomenal ground game and his endless bag of submissions. After his loss to Islam, Oliveira decided to take some time off to recover emotionally from losing his title. Now, let's talk about why Dariush can't fight for a title this year. After Islam's title-clinching win over Oliveira, the UFC lightweight champion invited Volkanovski to the ring. Islam, along with his coach and mentor Khabib, made an official challenge to the Australian. The challenge was accepted and the two fighters shook hands. The bout is set to take place in Volkanovski's backyard in Perth, Australia at UFC 284 in February 2023. UFC President Dana White gave the reigning featherweight champion permission to do whatever he wants. Volkanovski cleaned up the entire division, racking a flawless record at 145 pounds, and now he jumped at the opportunity to fight Makhachev for the dual championship. This leaves Dariush in a very tricky spot because he will have to wait for the outcome of UFC 284 before he can even get a shot at the title. Needless to say, the 33-year-old fighter was taken aback when Volkanovski got picked ahead of him for the lightweight championship. He told UFC.com that it felt weird to him and he was frustrated at the announcement. At the same time, Dariush understands why they did it, but the timing of it all was just terrible for him. The American-Iranian fighter admits that he was angry at how the whole thing played out, so he took some time off to cool down and gather his thoughts. He realized that it doesn't make much difference to him and that he'll stay focused on winning his fights no matter who he faces. To him, it was all good in the end, and he thinks that it turned out well for him. Following up, Dariush even shared his predictions for Makhachev versus Volkanovski. Beneil had his eyes on the bout for the lightweight title in February 2023. He may have to step in if either Makhachev or Volkanovski misses weight. And even if everything goes according to plan, Dariush might end up facing one of these men for the title himself. In an interview for UFC.com, UFC.com, Beneil shared some of his thoughts on what could potentially go down at UFC 284. He believes that Islam will be able to win, but he can also see Volkanovski clinching a victory. Dariush said that the great has all the tools for the stand-up, but he has doubts about his ground game. He wasn't sure how much Volkanovski can improve in his camp given the short amount of time, and handling Islam's pressure will be the real test for him. For now, Beneil's leaning in the favor of the Russian and thinks that his grappling game is insanely good. He went on to say that Makhachev is like an unsolved puzzle and that he would want to try and solve it. But then again, Dariush has massive respect for Volkanovski and doesn't think that the Australian is a pushover either. He feels that Max Holloway got the closest of anyone else in defeating Volkanovski in their second meeting inside the octagon. Regardless of what happens between the two champions, Dariush would be looking to step into the octagon himself against the winner. He would like nothing better than to take on either of the two most dominant fighters in their respective divisions and prove himself. Moving on, Islam Makhachev's coach also thinks Dariush should get his shot. Back in October last year, right after his fighter became the UFC lightweight champion, Coach Javier Mendez said that Dariush has proven that he is the rightful owner of the next title shot. While talking to Submission Radio, Mendez admitted that Beneil Dariush should be the one Islam should be fighting. This was right after the Dagestani fighter clinched the championship belt and challenged Alexander Volkanovski to the fight in Perth, Australia at UFC 284. Islam's coach expressed that if MMA wasn't a true sport, and if it were Dariush, 100% deserves the next shot. Mendez went on to say that MMA has become more of an entertainment sport and that fans would rather see the pound-for-pound king take on the newly crowned king of the lightweight division. That is why we are having this bout instead of seeing Dariush try to take on the new champion. Makhachev's coach praised Volkanovski by saying that he's number on the pound-for-pound rankings for a reason. He added that the Australian has cleared out the entire featherweight division, and he only seems to get better after every fight. He also thinks that Volkanovski's camp and his team are great and that this upcoming fight in UFC 284 will be a fight between two professionals. Both of the men will try to prove themselves, and it will be interesting to see who comes out on top. Now, let's briefly look at Dariush's last match. In UFC 280, where Islam won his title, Dariush faced Mateusz Gamrot in a lower card. The 33-year-old showcased his sharp striking and excellent defensive grappling throughout the fight. The first round started with Dariush landing some beautiful punches that forced Gamrot to attempt a takedown. The American-Iranian displayed an amazing scramble and was able to work his way to the top. From there, he started working his kicks and continued to defend against a couple of more takedown attempts from Gamrot. Round 2 saw more of the same as the Polish star kept trying to bring Dariush to the mat. The 33-year-old kept dominating his opponent in striking as he landed some of the cleanest shots of the fight and kept the pressure on. At the very end of the round, Gamrot was successful as he landed a significant knee on Beneil and was finally able to score a takedown. The final round began with the gamer attempting another takedown. He continued doing so throughout the fight, but Dariush almost always managed to defend effectively. Beneil even managed to drop Gamrot with a counter left overhand. The fight was full of action, but Dariush put on a more impressive showing that led to him winning through a unanimous decision by the judges. Finally, let's look at what could be next for Dariush. Beneil is probably mulling over his options as to what could be his options this year. He has expressed his desire to face two of the three men above him in the UFC lightweight rankings, and that makes sense for him too. Dariush is a veteran of the UFC and has been fighting for the organization since 2014. Moreover, he's on an 8-fight winning streak and has been unbeaten for nearly 5 years. The guy realizes that at 33 he's not a young fighter anymore and probably doesn't have a lot of time left in his career. Right now he just wants to be locked inside the cage with the most dangerous men in the world and doesn't really care if he risks losing his standing. He enjoys fighting and wants to fight the best of the best. If UFC doesn't offer him a title shot, he sure isn't going to beg them for it. That's it for today, guys. We hope you liked today's video. Let us know what you think about the whole Dariush situation in the comments below. Also, be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.